So welcome everyone. My name is Maren Moret. I am head of strategic partnerships at T4 and I will be your host today. Welcome to this session today brought to you by Best School to Work, an initiative of T4 Education. For those that are joining now, please tell us where you're joining from and use the chat box to also drop questions during the session. So feel free to comment and ask. I think yeah, I think the chat is disabled. We're figuring this out. So as soon as we can enable it, we're going to be able to see who you are and where you're joining from. So in the meantime, I'd like to start and introduce the session. Welcome to Elevate Performance from Within. Let me tell you a little bit from T4 Education for those of you who don't know us. Many of you already do. But we at T4, we are a platform and a global platform that we've been working on professional development opportunities for teachers and schools all around the world since the pandemic. So T4 was born of the pandemic. That of course we all know that posed a lot of questions around the relevance and the efficacy of education systems in the face of the challenges of our times that were particularly highlighted or exacerbated by the pandemic. So we started working on this, what we call non-academic topics, which basically harness all that have to do with the hidden curriculum. So we started off with the world's best school prizes, which, as you all know, are these prizes that we run for schools for 4 years now. And we recognize schools in topics such as community collaboration, innovation, environmental action, overcoming adversity, and supporting healthy lives. So as we started working and developing the prizes, and we started meeting with the schools and start to get to know their teams and really get into the schools and into the heart of what they do, we started realizing that no matter where the schools were, or what type of schools they were, or how many well or not resourced they were, the one thing they all had in common was basically strong sense of belonging, like a motivated staff, really respected and empathetic leaders. So the schools transpired this, and we could feel this. So it was very evident that this was a really the common factor that was underpinning all of these schools. Again, very different from very different parts of the world, but they all had this strong school culture in common, right? So that's when we said, okay, we need to measure all these intangible things and this school culture. So at that point, we developed Best School to Work, which is our certification program for schools. And what Best School to Work does is measure workplace culture, right? So we developed a framework that has four main pillars, basically leadership, collaboration, professional wellness, and school environment. So we look at these four things, and we try to give the schools that undertake this program and that want to know how this looks like. We try to give them a hint and a better understanding of what the culture at their school looks like. Basically, we also, alongside the development of Best School to Work, we started hosting this webinars and these sessions to delve into these different topics. Because I know that many over here are best schools to work that have also been part of our program. And when we have conversations with schools, it's very interesting to unpack these different concepts and understand what these different things look like, and really analyze and go in and dive deep into these things, right? So that's why we are hosting every now and again these webinars to delve into this topic. So today we're going to unpack a little bit more like leadership. We're going to talk about leadership. We have a very interactive session with a great guest, a great speaker. And basically, just before I introduce her, I just wanted to touch a little bit on leadership. And I was thinking as I was preparing this webinar that leadership like is mostly understood as like the action of mobilizing a team basically and influencing a team to achieve an objective or reach a goal or realize a vision, right? So I think that there's two ways of saying it, right? So when you when you try to realize or achieve a goal and an objective, there are hard skills that you need, right? Such as discipline, like management, planning, and all of those hard and core skills that you need in order to plan the different things you need to achieve a goal, right? But then there's another side of it that has to do with the action of mobilizing a team and interacting with a team and influencing people and basically human relationships, right? So there's two sides and two different components to leadership. Today, the session today will you will be able to discover a model that puts really well like this two sides of the coin when it comes to leadership. And at the core of it, it all comes to also understanding and discovering you as a leader, right? And discovering how everyone has those two sides, and also like basically yes, like a journey of self-awareness, right? So without further ado, I want to bring Jennifer in, our guest. Jennifer Johnson is going to be our guest today. Hi, Jennifer.
Hello.
Welcome. Thank you for joining. Jennifer comes all the way from Toronto in Canada. So let me introduce her. Jennifer, as a parent, former educator, social entrepreneur, and passionate change maker, Jennifer is the co-founder of Captains and Poets, and is on a mission to empower young people to be their best selves and create a better world. She has an MA in Education in Curriculum, Teaching, and Organizational Learning from WAS, and has designed numerous transformational programs over the span of her career. She is a seasoned leader in education and the corporate world, is a CTA coach, and has a leadership certificate from Harvard Business School. As a parent of two children, her focus is on nurturing self leadership skills and the ability to navigate an increasingly dynamic world with compassion, resilience, and authenticity. So, on that note, over to you, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's wonderful to be here with all of you bright light educators around the world. And I will say I love to travel, so hopefully I'll meet some of you in person one day. It would be great if we have a lot to cover today, and it would be great if we can use the chat at various points. I think that's working, Daniel. We're good. I saw some activity there. Great. And also, I'll move quickly. But if you could save questions for the end, that would be wonderful. And I'm really hoping that you walk away with some valuable insights and wisdom you can take forward in your leadership and in your life after our session today. So yeah, I wanted to maybe start with a little bit of a connection point to the amazing work that T4 is doing. There was a recent article on well-being and igniting that well-being and culture that Miriam was just speaking about. And really, it includes a focus on self-development. And I would argue that professional development and personal development are many times one and the same. And it's really about leading with that balanced approach, which we're going to talk a lot about today, to elevate performance from within ourselves and from within our schools. So we'll explore what that looks like today through the language of captain and poet. We'll do some personal reflections throughout our session today and some anonymous surveys so we can see where everybody is at around the globe. And when we look at your captain and poet, we'll have time to identify your authentic leadership style. I'll try to get to as many people as I can. So be ready, and I'll try to work with you if you're curious to learn a little bit about that. And then we'll look at the shadow side of the captain and poet when we're not thriving and what we can do to get back in balance. And then we'll just look a little bit about where to go from here. So I really hope this is a launch pad for you and not just, an information session. So just a little bit about captains and poets to give you context on who we are. We offer a lot of bespoke solutions to schools. We have a number of options. We have a 50-hour library of curriculum that schools can run themselves and integrate into their own program. Leadership workshops are probably our most popular offering. We do work in sports, creating a positive and inclusive culture. We have books and resources to bridge with the home environment, which, as we know, is a very important part of culture. And professional development is our fastest growing offering. I'd say about 3 years ago, teachers started to say, where's the adult version of this? So I love working with the adults as well. I find it really meaningful and engaging. So I'm excited to be with you here today. So after this session today, if you want to learn a little more about the captain, the poet, we have instructional videos. They're free on our website, just on the video tab. So feel free to take a look at those later. We have an animation video for ages 5 to 11. And we chose eggs as our characters because we wanted this concept to be universal and to be around the globe. So the egg was a pretty universal figure for us. And then we have a youth documentary with 9 youth ages 12 to 18 talking about their captain and poet. So each video comes at the concept a little differently based on age, but they're both worthwhile to watch even as adults. And what we're talking about here today is really a human curriculum. It's that hidden or internal curriculum that Maren was referring to earlier. And so much of what we do as leaders comes from this place, comes from within. So you can think of captains and poets as sort of social emotional leadership. And we founded Captains and Poets in 2018, recognizing that the world was becoming increasingly complex and wanting to give young people an inner compass and to get really anchored in who they are, because less and less the answers are outside of us, more and more the answers are inside of us. And I think it's funny when I tell this story now, because when I look back, 2018 now is sort of the good old days, looking at where we are in 2025. So more and more we need to be centered as people, as humans, and we need to be drawing on those inner resources. So we really are trying to be a global curriculum. We'll be in 12 countries by the end of this year and counting. And we were first invited to the United Nations in 2020, a week before COVID hit, to showcase our curriculum. And we had a full circle moment in 2024. When we went to the UN Summit of the Future. And I want to share this with you because when we were there, it was a very overwhelming experience because you have 17 sustainable development goals being examined, and just the level of orchestration at the event and the number of issues on the table was quite overwhelming. And we walked away resolved and really, recognizing that the change that we need to see in the world is not coming top down. It's grassroots, it's in communities, it's in schools. So I tell you this because the work that you're doing every day is so important. Because when we create change from within, in ourselves, in our schools, in our communities, that is how the world shifts. So I really hope that that inspires you in everything you're doing and your sense of purpose in the world. Let's pause and maybe start here with a quick anonymous survey. There's a lot on leaders' plates today. Maybe you can answer here for us. How confident are you in your leadership abilities in the context of today's schools? So we're answering question 1 right now.
Jennifer, shall we go to question 2?
Well, I just want to, do you want to do them all at once? Okay,
Yes.
let's do
Yes,
that.
yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. So now, thinking briefly just about our work environments and connected as well to what Maren was saying earlier, how many of you feel you can show up as your full self, that you can bring your full self to work, that you can be authentic in your role? Let's rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. I think that's question 3.
Can you all see the chat, the poll?
And then we have one more question. Are we getting some results there? Shall I go to the next one?
Let me check. Yes,
Yeah.
we're getting results.
Okay,
Let's go
great.
to the next one. Yeah,
Okay.
great.
And so I want to explore something a little bit here before we look at all the results together. So I think, it's a universal experience that we're all feeling the world is demanding more of us since COVID. But when I speak to people, they also, even though they feel like the world is demanding more, from a busyness perspective, many of us also feel that there's something still yet untapped inside of us that we have to offer the world. And maybe that was part of COVID too, doing a lot of self-reflection. So I'm wondering, how many of you feel like there's something dormant inside of you, something waiting to emerge, a dream or a part of yourself that's sort of on the verge of emerging or blossoming? You can answer yes, no, or maybe to that. And then let's look at the results.
Okay. Okay, let's close it.
So we have a range of levels of confidence in leadership, ranging from 4 to 9. And at the top there, yeah, scoring 9, we have 23%. So we've got about half in 7 or 8, which is great. And then the remainder are beneath that. Okay, excellent. Let's go to the next one. Oh, they're all together, sorry. And then question 3, how authentic do you feel you can be? Again, a bit of a range. 20% or about 40% feeling really great about that. 60, this is excellent. Okay, good. So we have some really, and that makes sense with T4, we have some really strong cultures here showing up. And who feels they have something untapped inside of them? Okay, so 5% said no, they're full on, they're fully expressed in the world. 60% said yes, another 40 maybe. Well, let's see how you feel about that after this webinar today. Okay, great. So we'll come back to that last question at the end. Thanks for sharing that. So it just gives you a sense of where you're at, where everybody's at as well. I just want to tell you, so I recently joined a Pilates class. It's sort of like active stretching and strengthening, and you're using your own body weight. And it's been a very interesting experience for me because I resisted it for so long. I was afraid, I was intimidated, and finally I did it, and now I'm very engaged in it. And what I'm noticing is that my body is responding so well, and I feel like there's muscles in me that are being activated. I sometimes have moments where I feel like my muscles are saying to me, like we've been waiting for you to activate us. We've been just sitting here dormant. And it struck me as a really amazing, beautiful metaphor for this blueprint that we each have inside of us, like for our own potential. And I think we're really good at activating that blueprint with students, right? We look at what their strengths are, we look at what motivates them, and we're actively trying to to draw that out and to really help that child reach their full potential, that blueprint that they have inside of them. But I don't think we do this as much with adults, and I think that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So, Captains and Poets, the language is here really to ignite potential and a sense of agency in people and to give them an inner compass to, those answers, are more and more inside of us. The resources that we need are more and more inside of us. And educators are being asked to show up more fully, to face the challenges at hand. But the gift and the beauty of these challenges that we're facing that put us at risk of fatigue and burnout, they also possibly if we take another path or another mindset, a growth mindset, they're an opportunity for us to scaffold our way to that next best version of ourselves, of what's possible and what's waiting to be activated inside of us. So we're really trying to get to the heart of social emotional leadership and help students and teachers, try to live these questions and answer these questions. And I would argue we're all living these questions, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously. And the more you're living these questions consciously, the more likely it is that you are thriving in your work and in your life. And 20 years ago, we might have called this character development, but the first question might not have been on there. But I think it's important, and I just invite you right now just to look and note for yourself which of these questions, which one or two, do you feel you could put a check mark next to that you're doing pretty well at, and then which one or two would you like to work on to take some ground. So just something for you to think about today as we go through. So the research that we really draw on is really about connection, a growth mindset, and being more mindful about how we're showing up. So in neuroscience, the work of Dr. Dan Siegel, really, he's an interpersonal neurobiologist, and really the message of his work is that we are wired for connection. We have these devices that we carry around all the time that make us feel connected to the world around us, but the desire and the need for human connection is really fundamental. And I think if you echo back to what Miriam was saying about the types of leaders that we need today, empathetic leaders are leading the best schools to work. So it's really about that connection piece. And we need to bring that forward more in our leadership and in our schools and in our learning with students. We also draw a lot on positive psychology. It's different than traditional psychology because it's not what's wrong with you, it's what's right with you. So taking that strength-based approach with your captain and poet strengths, which aligns well to schools, obviously. And then mindfulness, not so much teaching mindfulness practices, but helping us to be more mindful, have that extra bandwidth to be more aware of how we are showing up moment to moment to co-create the types of environments that we all want to live and work in. I also want to point out that we often treat well-being and identity, inclusion initiatives separately. And the truth is that they are inextricably linked. So this could be a list of criteria for someone with a healthy sense of well-being. It could be a list of criteria for someone with a healthy sense of identity. And we know firsthand if you woke up today and you were feeling good, maybe the sun is shining, you're having a good hair day, whatever it is, you're seeing a friend for lunch, you are more likely to put yourself out there in the world in new ways. You're more likely to try new things or have a conversation that you wouldn't have had otherwise. So those experiences then inform our sense of identity in the world. And then on the other side of the coin, the research shows that people who have a strong sense of identity, either personally or culturally, tend to be more resilient. So there's this interplay between well-being and identity that I think we don't often acknowledge, and we're really trying to get to the heart of that. So when the next time you're struggling, you can sort of ask yourself, why? Is this a well-being issue, or is this something to do with who I am and how I'm feeling in my environment? Do I feel like I have I'm reaching my potential? Do I feel like my identity is expressed? So just something to think about as we go forward. So really these archetypes, the captain and poet, we're collapsing all those hundreds of emotional intelligence skills that are so important in leadership into two words. And if you are not familiar with archetypes, they are, sets of human characteristics. Carl Jung and Joseph Campbell in The Hero's Journey spoke a lot about archetypes. And if I say ones like, king, mother, hero, victim. They tend to be universal and across cultures and time. And we all relate to those archetypes. But for example, if some of us on the call are mothers, we all relate to this central archetype of mother, but we each embody and express that archetype in our own individual way. Leader is also an archetype, and it's the same premise. So we are all going to be leaders in our own right. And with the captain and poet, we all have them. So we create this sense of connection. We're all having this human experience, but my captain is different than your captain, and my poet is different than your poet. So this is how we elevate performance in schools. It all starts with self-awareness and understanding ourselves first. When we deepen our connection to ourselves, we then naturally deepen our connection and understand others as well. So self-awareness is the foundation of self-leadership. How am I showing up in this moment? Just having that extra bandwidth. What's important here, right? What's my inner voice? What does my moral compass say? But also, what about the other poets around me? And then self-awareness is the foundation of effective leadership. So who are the captain and the poet? The captain is the doing side of us. The poet is the being side. So the captain is the doer, takes charge, goes out into the world, gains confidence through experience, makes decisions, that executive functioning, perseveres through challenges. And it's the part of us that's always stretching us out of our comfort zone. So today you might ask a question that you wouldn't normally. That's your captain pushing you. Okay. And so the captain's a little bit bold, a little bit adventurous when they need to be. Some people wear the captain on their sleeve, very obvious. They're the one to grab the mic, take charge, get up on stage, no problem. They have that a bigger, like maybe a presence, a leadership presence that's very outward. But I love to point out to people that the quiet captains tend to be some of the strongest, most persevering people in the world. They will be that loyal friend. They will be that person who takes a stand for things from that place of inner strength. Okay, so everybody has a captain. They just show up in different ways, and your captain may show up a little differently. If you play sports versus at home versus at work, and you can start to pay attention to how your captain's showing up. What else would I say about the captain? It's a repertoire. So for example, you might see some traits on here. This is just a short list. We have a much longer list, but just to give you a sense. So on the average day, my captain is bold. So I'm the kind of person, if I'm driving down the street and I see something going on, I'll pull over. I lean in. There's no fear. I've got a little bit of a boldness to me. But sometimes my captain needs to be organized. Sometimes my captain needs to be goal-oriented. So I have this repertoire that I can continue to grow into as I evolve as a person and as a leader. And then the poet is the being side. So it's all that good human stuff going on. It's our emotions, imagination, our creativity. It's what's in our hearts. It's our values, our dreams, our aspirations, our moral compass, and even intuition and gut feelings. So when young people learn this language, their shoulders drop because they recognize that they're not the only one that has all this going on inside that they have to sort through. Some their poets are very obvious, right? Because they're very emotive, they're very passionate, maybe they're an artist. We can see their poet. The quiet poets tend to be observant. They notice things that others don't. Maybe you'll notice a typo in my presentation today. They tend to be reflective, so they're taking in the world. They may be deeply sensitive. So these are all incredibly valuable traits in today's world as well. Similarly, it's a repertoire. So my poet on the average day is creative. Sometimes my poet needs to be a good listener. Sometimes my poet needs to be empathetic. So as a leader, we have to constantly pivot what is needed in this situation or this person in front of me. So we can ask ourselves, who's my captain need to be? Who does my poet need to be? And so it's really the doing, the way that we show up follows the being. So checking in with who we're being on the inside and what we're bringing forward in our poet is really important in our leadership. This also offers a really holistic lens, like looking at people and also I love this because it's very much in line with Indigenous cultures, this more holistic view of ourselves and the world. And so I think that's a good sign to me that this is the pathway we all need to work on to harness these synergies to have the impact and create the world we all want to see. But the being side is really looking at all aspects of that person. The doing is, being more aware of how our captain is showing up, informed by the poet. So this holistic view, when we bring them together with young people, we call it Better Together, and with teens and adults, we call it the leader within. And that's what we're going to look at now today. I'm going to show you a quick video of a boy, 8 years old, talking about his captain and poet.
This is my poet and this is my captain. My poet is very artistic, and I feel like these are my feelings. My feelings just flow around. I feel like I'm very creative, so one part goes to the next. And then this is my captain is very adventurous, and this is a mountain because I feel yeah, my captain's very adventurous. And then these are trees and the forest and stuff.
So if you can start to imagine, if you started to have that level of self-awareness at that age, recognizing what your strengths are, he's got a creative poet and adventurous captain. Being creative and adventurous is really the foundation of a pioneer, somebody who's going to push boundaries and try new things and find new ways of doing things. So just acknowledging that beautiful combination of captain and poet, that leader within, can be, just imagine the effect of that if you did that with everybody. I have another video here. I think I'm going to pause and just, if you're interested, it is on our website, but this shows a class talking about how they use their captain and poet. But just in the interest of time, I'm going to keep going. We have lots of videos as well if you're working with upper school or senior students, those teenagers talking about all the things that they're dealing with as well, so you can see it in action. But really what it's about is the combination, the partnership of the captain and the poet. That's how we show up as our best selves, when they are in balance. So the captain is nudging the poet, put up your hand, share that idea, go have that conversation that you need to have. Go try out for that team, go after that dream. I'm going to help you. We're going to set some goals. We're going to take some steps. We're going to bring some action to having you be more expressed in the world. And then the poet is guiding the captain's actions from that place of self-awareness so that we can show up as our best selves. And I think we've all worked for somebody who had, maybe too much captain and not enough poet. And we know firsthand that we weren't engaged. We weren't, as loyal to that leader, and that their impact is not going to be as long term. So it's a really important thing to consider in your own leadership. I'm curious, just love to hear, Maren, maybe in the chat, if people want to enter, what might have been different for you personally if you had learned about these parts of yourself when you were young. I'm curious to hear a couple of responses.
Yeah, sure. You can use we have the chat disabled due to a technical issue, but you can use the
Oh, okay,
Q&A.
that's fine. That's fine. I'll just anecdotally share. I mean, if you can just think about that for yourselves is really what I want. But people will say things like, I wouldn't have been as shy.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have cared what people thought.
Yes.
I would have made different decisions in my life, right? And you can think about that. Think about any crossroads you've had in your life, any challenge, and you can say to yourself, where was my captain on a scale of 1 to 10? Where is my poet on a scale of 1 to 10? Because ideally, you want them both to have very high scores, right? And I
Yeah.
want you to think about this because there's parts of you that you likely have left behind. Because when we're young, our self-awareness blossoms, but then we start to become self-conscious as well. And we start to pay attention to how others see us. And you might have received messages between the ages of, 5 and 8 that you start to remember those first moments when you were self-conscious. And you might have heard things like, you're too much of this, you're not enough of that, or you were made to feel different, or you were made to feel not good enough at something that you enjoyed. Maybe you weren't going to be Picasso, but you loved art and somebody criticized your art and you stopped doing art, right? Or maybe you made a mistake and then you internalized a level of shame around that. And so in those moments, we start to temper and hide important parts of ourselves. In fact, they are the parts of us that make us different, that make us special and unique. So when we do this with young people, they know who they are. When we do this with adults, we have to peel the onion a little bit. So just something for you to think about. What parts of yourself when you were young have you perhaps, left behind a little that you could bring forward? So another exercise here I want to do, but we're having trouble with the chat. So Maren, I'm going to ask you maybe,
Yeah.
what do you think is name a quality of a great leader?
I would say I think empathy is really, really important.
Okay, so that's
Um,
poet.
in the meantime, for the audience, you can use the Q&A chat. So you can drop a quality of a great leader if
Okay,
you'd like using that specific chat.
great.
In the meantime, I would also say, yeah, like compassionate. Um,
So compassion is captain and poet because compassion is empathy in action. It's when you want to do something. So that's the captain and poet,
yes,
that beautiful balance, right?
very interesting. Let's see. I think there are some.
You
So
said
here we have
discipline.
some listening. Good to have a vision.
That's poet,
Amazing. Good listener.
poet. And the captain is the one who's disciplined, making it happen, but it's poet. Yeah, good.
Okay. Vision and positive approach.
Positive, I'd say, is a combination of captain and poet, right? It's the attitude, but also,
Yeah.
really bringing that forward.
But vision,
Lots of poet. Hmm.
that's a poet. And then someone says more smiles. Interesting.
Aw, that's beautiful. So being more engaging with people,
That's
smiling.
poet,
That's,
right?
well, yeah, and that's a form of leadership because like being the first one to smile, not just smiling,
Okay.
right? So there's captain there too, right? You have to be a little bit bold. You have to lean in.
Interesting. So more smiles. So then
Or
communicate
smile.
effectively,
That's both.
both good motivator.
Lots of captain in there, but the poet, you have to have
Okay.
the poet's
Yes.
why, passion too.
Okay, so be in the front.
Yes, so that's captain,
That's captain pulling the car and stopping on the
right?
street. Honesty and commitment.
Mhm. Lots of captain in there,
Lots
right?
of captain.
You're coming from the integrity, like there's integrity and obviously the purpose comes from the poet, but the captain is making it happen. Okay, good.
Okay.
I love it. Okay, so you can
Interesting.
think about that. Think about who you are as a leader and what are those captain and poet traits. So this is the fun part for you. Now we're going to look at your captain and poet. I'd love for you to choose one word for each. Now when I do this with people one-on-one, they'll come with 10 and we talk through them. But just for the purposes of today, I'd love it if you could choose a trait that you see in your captain. It doesn't have to be on this list. This is an abbreviated list for today. But who is your captain? And then I'm going to show you poet. And I'd like you to put them into the Q&A chat
Mhm.
together to name your captain and your poet trait. So choose a captain trait. And choose a poet trait. And I'll just give you an example. So when the captain and the poet traits come together, it's a 1 + 1 = 3. So just like the boy who is creative and adventurous, being creative and adventurous means you're going to be a pioneer. For myself, I have a bold captain, a creative poet. Together, they make me innovative because I have a boldness in my ideas, and I say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be creative. I'm going to try and teach emotional intelligence and leadership in an easier way and in a better way, in a more effective way, so it sticks and it lasts, right? So that's one of my signature traits is being innovative. So I'm wondering, Maren, if you could read out to me a few of the combinations in there, and we could just we
Yes.
can spotlight them a little bit.
So okay, here we have some. Confident and reflective.
Ooh, interesting. Okay. So someone who's confident and reflective, you're going to be a very I would say you're probably an engaging leader because you are really good at kind of considering everything going on around you. So considerate. You're probably going to be the kind of leader that people trust because you have a confidence and you don't
Mm.
just do things sort of, without thinking through them. So probably a
Mm.
very trusted, thoughtful leader.
That's
Okay.
so interesting. Then we have another one that says fun and imaginative.
Fun and imaginative. Oh my gosh. So you're going to be a really energizing
Mm.
leader, someone who's great at getting everybody excited about things, right? And getting everybody engaged. And you're going to, obviously, with that imagination, you're going to keep people on their toes too. So that's great.
Amazing. Another one, organized and creative.
Mm, okay, that's interesting. So I wonder if you feel sometimes our captain and poet traits are opposites. And so we have like a tension between them. So being organized and creative, because one part of you likes to have order and the other part of you likes to create. I mean, you're probably fantastic at curriculum writing and program design,
Mhm.
thinking about that. But also as a school leader, you need both skills, right? You need to be creative with all the problems because you're going to be a great problem solver. You'd be an amazing problem solving poet or a captain and poet.
One more, problem solver and empathetic.
Problem solver. Okay, so what's your captain trait?
Um,
If they want to, because empathetic is the poet,
and I would say,
or maybe we
yeah,
can choose another one
goal
unless they.
oriented or focused. Okay, let's take another one. Action oriented and dreamer.
Ooh, okay. So someone who's action oriented and a dreamer, you are going to be a change maker.
Ah,
Because you dream big, you're not just focused on the day to day. You dream big and you love to be in action. So you're the kind of person who doesn't just have a dream when you're thriving, when you're fully expressed. You don't just have a dream and talk about it, like you actually make
mhm.
it happen. So you're going to be a change maker. That's amazing.
Okay. Can I pick that one last one? I think this is really interesting. The
Okay.
exercise. Courageous and innovative.
Courageous. Okay, well, this people are choosing from the Better Together. So courageous is your captain trait. Is that
Uh-huh.
they're choosing
Okay.
from here? We want to choose.
From here.
Yeah,
Okay.
you need your captain trait and your poet trait.
Okay, let's see if I can see someone having. Okay, so
But those are the byproducts. So
yeah.
if someone's courageous and innovative, kind of work backwards. What are your captain and poet traits? Yeah.
Does anyone? Okay, here's one. Confident is a trait and empathetic.
Oh, I think we did that one. Yeah.
We did that one. Okay.
Yeah.
But this,
Okay.
okay. Okay, anyone else?
That's great. So you
Very
get the idea.
interesting.
You get the
Yeah,
idea. So
yeah,
just imagine, like, I hope for those of you who entered and got some feedback, like, this should give you permission to say, oh, yeah, like, that is who I am. That's
yeah,
who I am. And the more you can bring that forward every day, that's how you elevate your performance because
yeah,
that is how you orient yourself to the world. And then the person sitting next to you is going to be completely different. And just imagine if we could harness all of those amazing traits and abilities. These are what we call your unique abilities and your leader within. I'm going to send you an article on this afterwards, but you're starting to touch who your leader within is. Like you will always orient yourself to your life as a change maker if that's who you are. If you're innovative, or if you're a problem solver just by design, that's your blueprint. Really now, like your job now is to coach yourself with your captain and poet to bring that to life and to give yourself permission to be to lean in more and express those traits more. Because when you do it, you're energized. You're energized, and the problems in front of us, the challenges in front of us become opportunities to show the world who we are. So you see that connection point. So the leader within is really the architect, that inner driver. And you'll know if you're feeling energized or you're not feeling energized, you're probably not following your leader within and your authentic captain and poet. So resources are really limited today. You know, we need to ignite these resources inside of people so that we can not just do more, but also for people to feel energized, have a great sense of well-being, to feel like they belong, that they're contributing. I mean, imagine that you, as a leader, you only have so many resources, you know, people working for you and with you. So we need to tap into that. So I'll send an article along on that afterwards. So what can you do now? You know about your captain and poet, even if it's just superficially. You can just check in. How are they doing? On Monday morning, my captain is often at a 6.5 out of 10. So I go take my dog for a walk, or I have a coffee, or I do something that I love to do in my work to kind of get myself, you know, energized, right? You can also just say sometimes my poet's having a bad day, because even as adults, we can't always name our emotions. And sometimes just acknowledging it sort of lets the air out of the tires, and then the captain can move forward. We always want to acknowledge the poet first. And that's the same thing when you're coaching someone, when you're teaching someone, mentoring someone, you know, always acknowledging the poet first before we move into action. Okay. And fundamentally, the poet is about what's important to us, our values, our emotions, our passions. And the captain ultimately is about what can I do? And it's often the little things that take the most courage and are the hardest. So I think just acknowledging that we need that captain to encourage us. Consider sometimes when you have too much captain, maybe that's a coping mechanism for you. You just get into that doer mode. Or consider moments when you have too much poet, and it's not helping you to be effective, right? So right now, I want you just to think of a challenge you're facing. It could be professional, it could be personal. And think about your main captain and poet traits that you just identified. And how could you use those to improve the situation? If you're confident and empathetic, bring that empathy forward, right? Or bring that confidence forward. Maybe you're the one who needs to smile first, right? But also consider what's the risk of just staying in those traits all the time. If I'm creative and bold all the time as a leader, I'm going to leave people behind. They're going to be like, where is she going? Where is she going? What is she doing? She's on another tangent, right? Another idea. So I need to slow down as a creative and bold leader, and I need to connect with people around me and bring them in so that they can contribute in meaningful ways and we can move forward together. And then think about how you can develop your traits. I'll give you a chance to look at the list again in a moment. So when our captain and poet are not showing up, this is when we're at risk of burnout and such. So if the captain's not in balance, it can either be underactive or overactive. And when it becomes overactive, it's like we're almost like overcompensating, and we're trying to just get more done in the day so we can feel like we're on top of things. But this can be risky, and you might recognize a couple of traits on the left and on the right, because we do oscillate sometimes from our captain sort of shutting down and then getting, into overdrive and working too hard. So whenever you find that your captain moves into one of these states, what you want to do is bring your captain back into balance. So think about your main captain trait, and you want to try and get centered in that, okay? Because being underactive or overactive is a reaction. It's not a response, it's a reaction. So think about that. And similarly with poet, our emotions, sometimes we can go numb because we're just so overwhelmed. Sometimes it's the opposite. Our emotions take over and it's a roller coaster, right? And we can't feel grounded. So again, you might move back and forth, but recognize a couple of these traits that happen to you when you're stressed out. And again, how do you bring your poet back into balance? How do you reconnect with yourself? Maybe it's, time by yourself. Maybe it's reading a book or going for a walk in nature or doing art, right? Or spending time with a friend. So you want to nurture your poet when you start to see these things happening. And I feel honestly like we're trying to do more by doing more. And what we need to start doing is to do more, we need to be more. We need to focus more on the being side. So here I'll give you a chance to choose a captain and poet trait that you want to expand in yourself. It could be a trait that's already there, and you want to grow it, or it could be something new. So pick a trait you want to expand in yourself. Again,
Okay.
give your captain permission, right? Give your captain permission to come forward. And then the poet, what do you want to expand in your poet? And this is what will energize you, right? It all comes from the poet. The poet is the source. Okay, so the poet's vision, we talked a lot about vision. Some people, vision really is at the heart of leadership. That's where we start, vision and values. And this is a quote from one of the videos, the youth documentary. It's the gas, it's the fuel, it's the petrol that keeps the car going. We need to have purpose. We need to have passion, or we won't be going anywhere. And that's especially important as a leader in schools. So our poet is the architect of the world. It exists in all of us. It's that blueprint. We all want the world to be a better place, right? We all want our schools to be the best they can be. So think about that, and consider finding a quote like one of these to inspire you. You can put it on your bathroom mirror. These are from our youth journal as well. Imagine your ideal school, team, world, community, whatever it is. And some people have very natural visioning abilities. They can literally envision where they're going and what they're moving towards, like the dreamer that shared earlier. Very natural. So if you've got a dreamer on your team, maybe you need to tap on their shoulder and ask them to help you. Because as a leader, you sometimes feel alone, and it's not your job to be everything, right? We have teams so that we can come together. So if you have trouble visioning, just ask things like, what would I fix? What would be different? How would people be behaving? So you can start to ask sort of less abstract, more concrete questions to get your vision going. And the poet's vision is really, something, if you're entering into summer in your school season, you can spend some time thinking about that. And I would pick a question that you want to work on here. Start to really get a handle on that vision. How do you want students to feel? How do you want staff to feel? How do you want to feel in your leadership in your school? How do you want your team to operate? What's your vision for your team? And then your captain can start getting it into action. So the captain and poet give us access to this inner compass. So every challenge in front of us is an opportunity, right? So always check in what's going on internally, what's going on with my poet. What do I need to express? What does my poet need to express here? And then how can my captain help me? How can I show up? So maybe we'll just have this in the chat instead of the survey. But I'm curious, who feels a little more confident in their abilities as a leader after today's workshop?
I do, definitely. Let's see what people are saying. So Christine says, I feel more organized. This has helped channel my energy.
Oh, excellent. Yeah. See, and that's the self-awareness, right? It's understanding
Yeah.
yourself, and then how do you organize all these moving parts? Amazing.
Very, very interesting. Yeah.
So this is an activity we do with students. I love to do it with adults as well. But think about it. Who's your captain? Who's your poet? What kind of leader do they make you? What's your vision? And then how can you use that leader within to make it happen? And I'll ask you, make a commitment. What's one thing you're going to do differently after this workshop? Just one. What are you going to let go of? And what are you going to bring in? What are you going to do differently? Feel free to share in the chat. And as a leader, when you share in the chat, you're going to inspire the other leaders, right? So being a leader is moment to moment. It's not just a title. So I'd love to hear a few.
Love that. Bearing in mind the traits, right? I mean, I'm asking Jennifer, like,
Yeah.
do things differently, bearing in mind like what traits you can bring into balance.
Mm-hmm. It could be, some people might start to be more confident. They might go, they
Uh-huh.
might collaborate more. They might share their ideas more because they were maybe a bit
Mm-hmm.
shy to do that before. They might take charge of that committee that doesn't have effective leadership, right? Isn't working well together. I mean, there's many things you could do.
Yeah.
It could be
So
little things too.
Christine is saying, need to relax the need for perfectionism, focus more on impact. What can I do now today?
Yes, yes. I
And
totally
then
agree. I totally agree. Because what's happening today in front of you is what you're meant to focus on. It's what you're where you're meant to be as a leader. Absolutely.
Mhm. Maxine is saying, I'll tap into my confident and reflective traits more to be that trusted,
Yeah.
engaging leader.
Mhm.
Nice, nice
Beautiful.
reflection.
Okay.
Michelle is saying, be more creative in my approach. Interesting.
Nice.
And then
Good.
someone else is saying, consciously searching for one in poets or pure L. Well, I don't know what they mean. Um,
Can I just pause for the person who said they're going to be more creative? I was listening
yes.
to a podcast recently and they were revamping a school system and they said as long as we don't break the students or break the law, let's do it. Right? So be creative. If you're not breaking anybody and you're not
Nice.
breaking any laws, be creative.
Yeah.
And we have lots of resources for you. We'll send afterwards lots of blogs from amazing these are just a couple educators around the world, and just to inspire you and weaving in that captain and poet language too to help you ground it. And we'd love to hear from you if you'd like to sign up for our newsletter, our mailing list, or if you're interested in a deep dive on your captain and poet. It takes about 30 minutes. I'd love to offer a promotion to this group of educators. So, and to support everything T4 is doing. It's fantastic.
Great. Thank you so much, Jennifer. This has been an amazing and really, really insightful session. So thank you. We are almost out of time. I'm conscious of that. I just want to pick on one question. Let's answer it and let's like close on that note. So the question says, what do you have to say about organizations or schools where it seems only the captain is at work and people feel used and unappreciated?
Mhm.
Okay. Ooh,
Mhm. Yeah.
that's a question.
Okay, so I don't know what your role is.
Yeah.
Um, Now, for you, for yourself personally, I would say you have to make a decision if that's where you want to be, because I think sometimes when we just conform, we uphold those ways of being, right? But I think
Nice.
if you, what I would encourage you to do first would be to lean in, to try to ignite a little more poet. And that starts with connection. It starts with creativity. We didn't talk a lot about intuition, but like you
Mhm.
can feel it in your gut. You can feel it in your gut what's needed in situations and what's not working. So I think start there on that micro level. And ideally, you can really appeal to the administration in the building if that's not you, to start to spark change.
Amazing.
And I'd love to
Nice.
help you too. Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Thank you. Thank you for that. Again, we've reached I think we're on time, but this
Mm.
has been amazing. I think that you all might have, I wish you all you walk away from this workshop feeling more like a leader and use the exercises that Jennifer was sharing in terms of the check-ins and see how you're doing. And if you need to bring the poet, for example, back into balance and less reaction, more response. And also we encourage you to take those questions that Jennifer was sharing into the summer or into your breaks and reflect on who you want to be and how you want your school to look like. So thank you for that, Jennifer. We will share the recording afterwards and more resources, a link to the page, to the website, and all of that. In the meantime, thank you for joining us today. You can also visit our Best School to Work website and learn more about the program. And also, just a note, we are hosting our in-person conference, T4 Education's in-person conference, the World School Summit in Abu Dhabi in November, 15th and 16th of November, and you're all invited to come. I wish, Jennifer, I don't know if you're going to come, but I wish to see you there. And actually, the topic of the conference is leadership for a better world. So we're going to be tapping into this concept and how important this is in order to have better schools and a better world. So on that note, thank you for joining, and we hope to see you back in a new webinar after the holidays. Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much to T4.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.